The world of James Bond video games has always been an interesting one. There are many lesser-known games off on platforms that have long since been forgotten, and more modern games kind of starting with the N64 and PlayStation 1 era that either built on, adapted, or fit somewhere neatly within the realm of whoever the movie actor was at the time playing Bond. Now that IO Interactive is going their own way with the James Bond franchise, this is the developer of Hitman, and they are actually making a pretty much standalone video game exclusive James Bond universe. At the time of recording this, their Project 007 has not come out yet, and it is going to essentially be the start of a video game James Bond, which we assume will get sequels. Nate and I wanted to talk a little bit today about what the benefits are of this and what is actually being lost, because it doesn't seem like we will really probably ever again, at least in the next 10 years, or probably more, get another video game based on the movie version of James Bond. So if you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let us know what you think, or follow depending on what platform you're on. We appreciate you very much. I do have a question of the day for you, which is, do you have a favorite video game based on James Bond, and why?
It better be GoldenEye Reloaded.
Oh, okay, GoldenEye Reloaded.
Wrong.
Nate, I kind of wanted to talk to you about this for a few minutes because I feel like there's a lot of benefits to this, but also, some negatives that are disappointing too.
This could actually be very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have no problems really with the studio making up their own James Bond and essentially starting their own story or universe surrounding this specific character. I don't have any problem with that. I think it could be interesting. I think there's plenty of villains you could pick from. There's plenty of, or even if they make up villains, there's plenty of potential stories you could have. I think it could be very interesting.
Well, you can also tie back to the Fleming novels, even in ways that maybe the movies didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential with that. My only potential issue I have is I feel like you're losing some of the magic that the other games had. Whether people love the games or hate the games or whatever, there was a lot of magic going and playing GoldenEye Reloaded and hearing, Daniel Craig's voice or hearing iconic Pierce Brosnan lines. I think that's some of the magic of the James Bond games in general over the years is feeling like you were playing as that movie character. For example, if you watch the movie Quantum of Solace and then you went to play the Quantum of Solace game, just hearing Daniel Craig, seeing the world, seeing the characters, so on, it all just kind of felt like you were a part of that character's world.
Right.
Which I think was very interesting. And not all the games were like an exact copy of the movies. Which I think made it more interesting because it felt like you were part of an expanded part of that character.
Well, that's something I like too, is I know that there's always debate in every fandom, what is canon, what isn't. I think people pay attention to that more than the rights holders and creators who actually make this stuff. Like, they obsess over that question. Well, I think that when people played the movie-based games, it was an understanding that it was a different retelling of that movie. Like, when you watch the Tomorrow Never Dies movie, you wouldn't pause it and be like, and that's the part where in the video game level, James Bond does this. You just know, okay, well, the video game is a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those video games, even if they made references to each other, they were separate. But when it came to the tie-in games that weren't movie-based, so for example, they were based on the character, but not on a particular movie, like Agent Under Fire, maybe Bloodstone, Everything or Nothing, any of these, you could fit them in somewhere to that movie version timeline if you wanted, and you could enjoy them that way. Now, there will be some film snob on Reddit who tells you you're wrong and an idiot, but you can just ignore that guy and enjoy it for what it is because he doesn't matter and no one cares about him. Yeah, like his
parents ignore him too.
Yeah, exactly. But, like if you wanted to say, hey, look, the Craig Bond is obviously a reboot. So maybe GoldenEye Reloaded really did happen in his universe too. Maybe Bloodstone really did happen in his universe too. And look, it ties a little bit into how he ended up, a little older in something like Skyfall and gives you a mission in the middle there after Quantum of Solace, things like that. You could enjoy them that way. And that was fun and it was interesting. And I do think it added to that world and expanded it. And when you take that away, it's not that the movies can't stand on their own. They can. They have been since really the 60s. They've been standing on their own just fine. It's not that they can't. This isn't Star Wars where it's like, oh, sorry, you didn't play that level of Jedi Survivor? Well, you don't know about this obscure holocron.
Right.
We're not talking about that. We're just talking about an optional supplementary addition to those versions of the character that, like, maybe you wanted more Brosnan. Maybe you're like, I don't like how Die Another Day ended this version of James Bond. Oh, look, Everything or Nothing exists. It's basically the final, Brosnan Bond movie. You even have other characters played by famous actors, like Willem Dafoe is in that game. You're pretty much playing through a loose script of a Bond movie. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you lose that additional content when it comes down to it. Now, I think people can live without the movie-based games. And by that, I mean, like, I think they can live without getting a Die Another Day tie-in, which they didn't get one. I think they could live without some of those things. You're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater a little bit here, where it's like, instead of just getting rid of straight-up adaptations, it really does look like they're getting rid of the idea of expanding on the movie universe at all. They're just like, well, you know what? Maybe you just play the James Bond video games, you don't care about the movies, here you go. I kind of think that, like you said, you lose a little bit of the magic of that, where you see Pierce Brosnan's likeness, in Nightfire, and he's interacting with these characters, and you lose some of that, and then you only have separate continuities. I guess there's nothing wrong with it. The movies have stood on their own forever, and obviously the books were separate, and each has their own fans, and they have crossovers. But I also wonder if it's going to feel the same. Maybe it's more like that saying that we won't actually miss the thing, we'll miss how we felt when we had that thing.
Yeah.
We'll miss, like, the feeling of, like, oh, cool, now I'm Pierce Brosnan. Because you won't have that anymore. So that's kind of my one big negative with this. But again, it also does open the world up for not being beholden to anything the movies do and being able to tell your own story from the ground up with no attachments to that at all.
Yeah, I guess my big thing with it is I kind of wish they would maybe do both.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally fine with a brand new James Bond universe. They're probably going to be really fun. But I'm also wishing we'd get more movie tie-in games. Granted, we have to have movies actually do have tie-in games.
Yeah, they don't make them
they don't really make them very often anymore, so there's that. But still, I think part of the reason why games like Agent Under Fire, GoldenEye Reloaded, games like these were so fun, I think is because you're in the world of the movies. And that's something I don't know if they understand really, is they just think, oh, well, we'll just start our own universe here. And it's like, yeah, that could be cool. But I think part of the reason why those games were so cool is because you actually felt like you're Daniel Craig. You got to interact with characters you saw in the movies, or listen to, someone talking to you or something. You're like, oh, that's from the movie, and that part of it was just so interesting. And then especially when they had, like in GoldenEye Reloaded, the multiplayer. I think a lot of people really got into the multiplayer because they got to play as those characters, like Odd Job and, all these famous characters that people grew up with. Either in the video games or the movies, they got to play with these characters, and it was so fun and magical to them. It wasn't just like another COD. It was kind of like COD, but you're now playing in the James Bond world.
Well, and even before that, you were, the James Bond games were responsible for pushing the FPS genre forward. People don't remember this. Even third-person shooters, things like Everything or Nothing had a cover system that I think a lot of games took inspiration from going forward. But I will say that with those games, you look at GoldenEye, N64 GoldenEye. You know why GoldenEye is so renowned as a brand and as a name? Because it not only had one of the probably best written James Bond movies ever, and a movie that I would argue helped really rejuvenate the franchise. It wasn't a hard reboot, but it was like a jumping on point that really brought in a ton of new people while pleasing old fans. It was a proof of concept, but also you had a proof of concept for first-person shooters that came out around the same time with GoldenEye N64. So you had a game that pushed forward this entire video game genre. You had a movie that pushed forward this entire movie franchise at the same time with the same name, to the point where that brand took on almost a life of its own, where people have heard of GoldenEye who haven't heard of other James Bond things. I feel like, one, you are losing that cross-promotion a little bit, too, from the business side, but you're also, I think, losing a little bit of the it's gonna sound like a boys club type thing, but like the hardcore fandom club. It's like, yeah, I watched all the Craig movies. Did you play Bloodstone? Yeah, I played Bloodstone. Whoa! And like you have like this little bonding moment between like
nice reference.
Yeah, James Bond. James bonding moment between like the hardcore fans of the franchise. Not that you can't be one and not play video games, but you had that other element of like, yeah, whoa, this more obscure thing. We both enjoyed this too.
Mm-hmm.
You are also going to lose that. So like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of benefits to it too. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm coming off saying like, this is a bad idea, this is dumb, I don't trust IO Interactive. I'm pretty sure that their game will be a great game.
Yeah, right.
I can't think of an IO game that was bad off the top of my head, at least in recent years. That's not my point. My point is just I do also feel like from the fandom side of it and from the side of living in that world and connecting with other fans, I also wonder if you're losing a little bit, like you said, of that magic in a way. That's my one concern with it.
Yeah, and I think both of us would agree they could just make both.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like if let's say James Bond, I don't know what the future of the franchise is back in terms of the movies, but let's say the next movie comes out and they make a video game based on that movie. I think fans of this series, whether the video game fans or movie fans, I think they would like the game.
Yeah.
Like it'd be fun, whether it's directly inspired by the movie, like we're talking you're doing missions from the movie specifically, or it could even be like a sequel or something like that, like they did with other Bond games in the past. Whatever it is, I think fans would be interested in it. Because again, you have that cross-promotional part already added into it. You can go out and watch the movie, you can come home and play the game. Mm-hmm. So it's just more interesting.
But to me right now, it doesn't look like they're going to do that anymore.
No,
it really looks like that has... And we saw, the kind of the death of the movie-based game.
Yeah.
You still get anime games based off of TV shows and stuff like that, but you don't really get very many movie games that are an adaptation of a movie anymore. Yeah. And a lot of them were bad. There were a lot of stinkers in there, but there was a lot of great stuff in there too. And again, it kind of feels like what I said before, the baby with the bathwater. So you're like, well, some of these were bad, so let's not make any of them anymore. They all suck. I don't think anyone ever thought all movie-based games suck. At least no one who played any of the good ones did. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the Raimi Spider-Man games, some of those James Bond games like GoldenEye. I think that people who experienced those, they didn't think every movie-based game was bad. The problem is they got a reputation for being lazy. Because a lot of companies were lazy with them. That doesn't mean that all of them have to be. So I kind of feel like when that trend went out, that's kind of why we didn't see certain things. We didn't see Skyfall. We didn't get Spectre. We didn't get No Time to Die. None of these got movie-based games. None of them. And there were fewer and fewer James Bond games coming out. And so I kind of feel like as that trend died in the industry, the people with James Bond, like MGM and stuff, decided, oh, well, no one likes movie games. I don't really think that was ever the case. I think
people just didn't like lazy movie games.
Exactly. I don't understand why corporations can't understand the difference.
Well, I think it's because corporations don't understand a lot of things. People saw like the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra game for the Wii and were like, oh, this is trash. But that doesn't compare at all to like Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Right. A beloved video game that came out like 20 years ago with the movie.
I love Lord of the Rings, The Twin Towers.
Yeah, me too. That literally, fans of this franchise grew up on, and they beholden to be like amazing video games.
I will say this, my favorite part of Lord of the Rings, The Twin Towers was when they weren't pulling up, and Gandalf on the ground was like, fly, you fools, fly! Trying to get them to pull up. I was crazy.
That is my favorite part. Yeah, I was shaky and I was just absolutely in awe.
Shocked they put that in there.
I know, me too.
But in that era, I do want to throw in here, you also had games like X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, right.
Where you had a movie that was disappointing but a good game.
Yeah.
So it could go both ways.
Right.
If you put effort in and you had the right developers on it, you gave them a budget and you cared.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is I feel like IO Interactive could very easily make a good game. They're a good company.
Yeah.
They've had some great games over the years.
People love Hitman.
So why can't they do, a movie-based James Bond game? Or even, here's another thing. Why don't they go back through the history of James Bond and make games based on older movies? Like, they could do a...
Like one they did From Russia with Love. People loved that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they loved that game based on the movie.
They could do a full game based on, like, Goldfinger or...
Dr. No.
Dr. No, some of the early Sean Connery ones. Now, obviously, you'd have to get a different voice actor play Sean Connery at this point.
I'll do it.
You'll do it, yeah. It'll be great. But I think that'd be kind of fun. That'd be kind of interesting. I guess I'm just disappointed that it seems like they're totally abandoning the idea.
Well, and
I'm not disappointed in the new universe. I kind of want the old universe as well.
Don't you feel like we say this about a lot of stuff? Like you could just do both.
Yeah, I feel like Assassin's Creed is a good example of this. Why not do both? Pokemon.
Like every time one of these video game franchises or whatever changes direction, we're like, cool, new direction, this is fun.
Yeah.
You could do the other one too.
Yeah.
And they're like, no,
one we're just this, all in.
This. Why not do both? And I don't even think IO Interactive has to do that. It doesn't have to be like Insomniac, where like every fan online is like, Insomniac made a good game? What if they make a Squirrel Girl game now? It's like, you don't have to make that one company make everything.
Right.
Maybe IO Interactive has their own, brand. They have their own James Bond thing, not beholden to anything. It's its own thing, and that's great, and they release sequels to it. And then you have another development company that loves James Bond. He does love it, actually.
Right, yeah,
he made a lot of references to it in Metal Gear.
We could have basically just a movie from Hideo Kojima.
Finally, my time to shine. Yeah, no, I don't know. Then give that group that project.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. That's kind of my thought. I mean, MGM is made of money. There's no reason they couldn't do that. And it's really just money on the table. I don't know. That's just kind of our thoughts on it. But again, we're excited for the IO Interactive version.
Yeah, I'm very much so.
Because I know someone's going to be like, well, why don't you want that? We do want that. We're just saying it would be also cool to have the magic of the old ones, too.
Yeah, right.
Nobody wants the IO one to go away. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know this character and world and everything. It sounds awesome.
It better have immersive Bond sex moves.
I want, like, God of War style moves there, except for expanded.
Right, yeah, definitely. I want to give him the gold finger.
Right.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like, subscribe. We appreciate you very much. You want to help support our channel? We have a Fortnite code. I don't know if there's a big crossover between James Bond video game fans and Fortnite fans, but if there is...
Well, they're both shooters, so there you go.
Same thing.
Everyone
We're
loves
pretty much a corporation now.
I know.
I understand the modern man. You can use code DJAY123 over there to support us. We do also have our own store, which is CosmoBunny.shop. We actually make comic book and manga, resin pieces, keychains, trays, and more. And you might think, well, what the heck is this guy's problem? He's just printing out pictures of comic books from the internet, stealing these pictures and putting them in resin? No, you don't understand. What we do is we actually get these comic books and manga from stores that can't sell them. We cut out some of the pages, we save some of the pages, bits and pieces, we make different things with them, and then we recycle the rest. So we're upcycling some stuff, we're recycling some stuff, and it's a really fun thing. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. What was your favorite James Bond video game? And leave a like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. We appreciate you. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.